I think we're ready to go. Thank you very much. I think we're about ready to go. Let's do it. I got the wrong titles on this morning. I've had a lot going on. Good to see you. Good morning. How are you? Happy Monday. How was your Sunday? I bet you flew 1,800 to 2,000. Well, no more than that. 2,200 miles in the same round trip in the same day. Yesterday, you guys did that, right? That's just a normal Sunday for you. Oh, good. I'm not alone. Awesome. Hi, welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Megaworldwide. Second hour today, Ron Filipkowski is going to be joining us, and I'm extremely excited about this because he and Aaron Rupar, I think, are, as far as people who are able to, that have sort of like the magical ability to refine Republican craziness down to a needle point and just drop a video going, I mean, almost having to say nothing. It's almost funny when Aaron will occasionally put his 2 cents in, right? And in a lot of ways, it's it's almost like it catches you off guard because so many times he's just posting the videos and going, yep, then he said this, then this happened, and then after that he went even crazier. And here's a little piece of that crazy. And if you don't believe me, go watch the thing. And it's very useful. Ron, in the same way, is broader in scope in some ways in what he does, but the value is I mean, for everybody. How many times have you guys found yourself really getting some strong fuel for your argument from both from Ron Filipkowski in particular? Just let me know in the Chizat room. Hi, chat room. I did not watch the Oscars last night. I was, very excited about the Everything Everywhere All at Once doing very well. Super sweet, nice thing. And by the way, hi, chat. There you are. Hold on. Let me get you in here. Boink. Oh, I'm covered you up with. Oh, that's the chat box. Hi. Hello. Gotta pop this up underneath, and then look how crazy it is when you look at that. Look at me doubling a chat. See how much stuff I see while this is happening? Anyways, pop this up here real quick with you. And Robert, thank you for becoming a member. That's very sweet. Again, I think is that an element of it has to be re-upped. It's very strange, these online memberships, but I appreciate them more than I can tell you. Also, what are you drinking? Coffee? What's happening out there? What beverage are you pouring back this fine morning? If I'm talking really fast today, it's because I got 4 hours of sleep, and my body does the exact opposite when I'm exhausted that most people does, which is most people will slow down and kind of ease into it. And my body basically, I think it's something genetic about being from smaller stock as far as people go, is you got to be ready to move. You know what I mean? If we're not getting a lot of sleep, there's a reason for that. We're probably running from a predator of some sort. So let's have the argument, and let's everybody get your camp together. The saber tooths are coming. We're not going to be able to outrun him for long. Like that, I think. Whereas the big people all seem to be like, I don't know, I'll get it. Yeah, saber tooth, we know. So hi there. Thank you for sharing the show. Thank you for pressing it out into the world. Coffee, Pepsi, you're in the avenue. You can almost tell what time of day people watch the show. Sweet tea. Afternoon sparklers. Hello. I think that's a hello from Anne, not the kind of beverage she's having. Pretty sure. Morning sparklers. There you go. You're having a Red Rock. There you go. Small dog syndrome. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. Thanks for putting it that way. Hal, what's going on with the banks? Nothing. A couple of banks. Sorry, hold on one second. I have to do something. A couple of banks that were highly that were sort of conjoined with the crypto market found themselves you know how your bank deposits are secured by the FDIC? Yes. Well, the bank deposits at some place like the SVB, the bank that went down, and a couple of the others related to it, they're insured by FAFO. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? And by the way, May I say that if you'll recall, as soon as this FVB shit started breaking down, who that you know of, just I'll wait. Who told you that it was crypto related and a much ado about nothing? Who told you that right away? Because I know some of the really smart people that people talk about on the show, on the shows on the Fox Business and the CNBCs and the Market Watches of the world. Those folks today are suddenly making those statements. Even Peter Zion, who I very much like, said it yesterday, or and I think it posted last night, and I posted it this morning. He made this point, and he probably, in all fairness, had the idea as soon as it came out too. This might have just been the first time he's relaying a article he saw about it, but this is crypto fallout. That's what I said it was. That's what it is. And when you see people tell you, thanks everybody for remembering, when you see people telling you this, I would just like, I don't want credit for this. It doesn't fucking matter. It's like, these are, to me, these are self-evident things. This is a normal part of why I'm here. But I would like to just maybe present this as a trust feather in my cap. You know what I mean? Like when you're like, why should I listen to Hal about said thing? I should have trust feathers in my cap that you can go, oh yeah, yes, that's definitely right again, right? Because again, in a lot of ways, it I don't know how it helps, how much right, how often I'm right about these kind of things on an emotional level mean anything. As a matter of fact, at a certain point, you might feel a bit like Cassandra if you're right about a bunch of these things. Except it's the exact opposite, because Cassandra was warning about the end of the world, and I'm warning about the exact opposite, that it's going to chug on, and we all better fucking act like it. Marianne. Anyways, crypto is zooming up now. Oh, is it? Good luck in your senior year. But that I would like to add. Thanks, John. I get a big attaboy. But again, it should be, if anything, when I tell you about these kind of things, and everybody else starts going, I'm starting to think it's crypto fallout. Yeah, it's crypto fallout. Yeah, it's definitely. You could see how their money was like tied up in crypto, and then source. It's obviously this bank wasn't regulated the way the other banks were because of Trump dropping the Dodd-Frank rules and that kind of stuff, and crypto jumped in there because that at the level they were at, and they just dumped a shit ton of money in there, and and once crypto, once Bitcoin dropped below 20K or cut its half its worth in about a year, of course they're going to have difficulty paying their payroll and the FTX thing and blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, motherfucker, duh. Like it's duh o'clock. I don't know, everywhere. Like at some point, hope springs eternal. At some point, the groundswell about quote unquote inflation in our country and around the world, indeed, is going to shift from the illusion of monetary inflation to people recognizing that this is supply shock. At some point, they're all going to come on board. Most of them are too chicken shit to say it because they're afraid that right-wingers will dump on them for, you're just protected bad without, but because inflation's real, you can put at the pump, the things are called, look at eggs. You know what I mean? They're going to do all that shit. And so rather than hear all that stuff, they just use a lot of mitigatory bullshit language to protect themselves instead of just saying, it ain't that, it's this. It's not that the prices have gone up, it's why they've gone up. Because if you solve for the wrong problem, you create a new problem. But eventually they're going to have to, because it's reality. And if they're ever going to want to be listened to, not by you and I, but by the financial people that are supposedly taking their advice and buying and selling stocks and shit like that, believe me, they're eventually going to have to go, it's supply shock. Look at the eggs. Right. So Mm. Is price gouging corporate profits went up 54% since 20 eggs? No. Um no, cuz they you'll watch. Eggs are going to bottom out because production's going to get back to where it was. Um and the rise in egg prices, that 54% you're citing, I think if you are talking about eggs in that particular, there's this like eggs have gone up 42% in the last whatever. They've also become increasingly organic. They've become increasingly expensive to produce and transport because people want the cartons not to be styrofoam. They want them to be in recyclable cardboard. Like, the consumer has decided that eggs can be slightly more expensive over the last decade and a half. And if you don't believe me, look at all the right wingers that only eat organic eggs. Of all the bullshitting about how they, just shit on environmentalism and vegetarianism and blah, blah, blah. All of them, grass-fed beef and organic eggs. Kidney. Kidney. Anyways, so yeah, so the cheap like restaurant eggs are going to drop down to be like below a dollar, and for a dozen at some point, and that'll drive the other price down. But organic eggs are always going to be more expensive because that's what people are asking for. You do live up the road from an egg farm. Yes, and you'll notice eggs don't keep, I think, is one of the things. Eggs and if you'll go back and watch Trading Places, and you will pick up a couple of pieces of information that will stick with you over the years, in that there are certain commodities that are perishable, that are more volatile by nature, volatile by nature, because of that fact, right? Because they perish. They can only stay frozen so long, or they're no good frozen, or in the case of frozen concentrated orange juice, people expect a certain level of freshness before it has to be turned into orange flavoring or whatever if it sits there, that kind of shit. Eggs in particular, chickens are like little oil fields. Once they start producing, you can't stop them from producing because it's hard to start that shit up again. And that's exactly what we've been through. So there you go. I know 50 plus. It's so weird. It became a weird thing, but I like it. It's just for us. If you don't know what's going on, that's fine. H5N1, exactly. That's what it was. Yes, eggs have been given a bad rap. I had 3 raw eggs this morning because I didn't have time. Yes, powdered eggs, and you'll see that what happens is that once they reach a certain element of where profitability versus availability versus what the consumer will put up with, they start diverting stocks. They start increasing stocks if they don't have enough, where the price will go up too high and people will shift to something else. It's eggs are in a similar way, especially when used for baking and other stuff, because you got to think about what's a good, well, the best analogy I can leave it in. It's a little gross, but work with me on this. Whenever you're kind of like, oh my god, eggs, with it, like everybody gets hyper personal about a dozen eggs or however many it takes for you to go 5 eggs, however long it takes you to get through a few, in your household, if at all. And the way I need you to think about it is toilet flushes. I don't know how many happen in your house in a day, whether you live alone or with 2 other people, or whether there's a strong regularity of 3 times a day or every 2 days, or whatever the variance is in your household. But I want you to think about every building in a 25-mile radius of your house, and how many times the toilets flush every single day. How much water is used, how much refuse is created, how it has to be processed, what has to happen to it, and then stack that up on to a population of 340 million people, and you start to get the overwhelming size and impact of minor shifts in water flows and sewage treatment plant backups. Do you understand? Same thing is true of things like eggs. And why most of us with FCOJ, frozen concentrated orange juice, worldwide, I remember seeing trading places and going, really? Frozen concentrated orange juice is a traded thing on that scale? Now I was, 16 at the time or whatever. And by the way, TOH Show Live, thank you so much. And Malik Gibbons, thanks for the super chat. We should all try to be more like Gary Lineker. All right. I suppose it's a worthwhile thing. Thank you, TikToks, for doing that. Therese, thank you as well. Yeah. You have to understand the absolute crazy fucking scale of everything around you in a country that is this big, right? Much less the world at large. Like, it is enormous. And so the price of eggs, the idea that even corporations they can gouge car prices, for example, because they can slow production and there's no intrinsic demand for cars. Quite frankly, cars are almost at this point as good as they need to be. Most of the changes in cars have not been about the engines, except for electric cars. And combustion engines have not really changed all that much. They've gotten more computerized, but largely it's because of your interaction with them and the ability to fix them, and minor elements like that. The timing can now be computerized, which is much more consistent than timing based on a mechanical element. And so that your timing belt's off, that kind of shit. Remember that? Right, that's gone. Now it's all computerized, which can be monitored, and that's the changes that have happened. But the quality of the combustion going on is pretty much where it was in the mid 90s. That said, if a car dealership wants to, if they know their car is in high demand, and they can slow production on purpose to raise interest, just like you can make people line up on the street outside of a club that people want, to make people think, wow, that place is jumping on the inside. Eggs, you can't do that. The volume of eggs that are necessary for so many things, because it's an emulsifier, it's used in all kinds of every baked good. Like, there's so much industrial need for eggs on an enormous scale that if you start jamming up the works, you can't just needle the consumer in that regard. You're also needling restaurants, and you're also needling, companies like Walmart and the like, which will get really mad because their customers won't get mad at egg producers. The customers will get mad at them. And so that's, the ability to gouge, quote unquote, in this current time is way overstated. It just is. Do corporations gouge in emergencies sometimes? Of course they do. Do they price fix on occasion? Of course they do. This ain't that. There are many sufficient egg substitutes. It's debatable, but I hear you. Yes, vaccines. They're used in vaccines. That's right. Point is, and you're absolutely right, KJ Doglove, that you can use aquafaba or ground flax seeds with water to mimic eggs in baked goods. But that is another 3 processes that it's in your household, not a big deal, especially if it matters to you and you're like, instead of using eggs, I'm gonna use flaxseed as my emulsifier for my baked goods. You can do that. It's gonna add more time to your day, it's gonna add more work, but you as an individual might decide that value point is worth it for you. Scale that out to replacing eggs in general in the society with that stuff in the near term because of a shortage, and which is going to end and turn into a surplus. Won't happen. Greed has no limits. It kind of does, though, Vincent, because greed has a return on investment. Again, this is the devil argument. This is the argument that the devil needs the world to work normally. He needs more goodness in the world than evil. And this is a philosophical argument, obviously. The devil would need more goodness in the world, because if the world isn't majority good, evil cannot serve a purpose or doesn't stand out. It's not interesting anymore. And hell is boring to the devil, is the idea. If it was his idea of what he wants everything to be, he would just stay there all the time. But you got to fuck with the good, and everything has to work. Same thing is true of, profit centers in corporate situations. Once they bite off more than they can chew, they have painted themselves into a corner. And there are only a few areas where you can do it and get away with it. And with food, it's in the short term because people will just eat something else. But and gas and oil, though, the transition is way bumpier, way more difficult, and to find something that solves that problem that you're solving, that existed in terms of energy expenditure versus transportability and safety and blah 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 that you've already incorporated into how you deal with it, to shift that over to something else is a lot of fucking work. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work, again, extrapolated out like that flaxseed example through the whole society, right? So you're not talking about like little, it's like we talk about recycling in terms of what you and I are doing. But if a giant, if Mar-a-Lago doesn't bother, it can wipe out to some degree the efforts of everybody in a 25-mile radius. Does that make sense? That's why these kind of efforts got to be an all hands on deck idea. So when we're talking about, transitioning from oil, specifically gasoline, to electric vehicles, that's going to be a bumpy, very difficult transition. If eggs were wiped out tomorrow, and I'll remind you, go look up the story about the egg wars around the Farallon Islands, which is why there are jumping great white sharks there. You understand? Like, you ever seen those footage of the jumping great white sharks? Okay, that's a learned behavior that they picked up knocking Irish, Italian, and English rowboat fucking captains out of their boats, along with seals in around the Farallon Islands, where these seabirds would nest, because there were not enough eggs to service the restaurants and the hotels in San Francisco during the gold rush. So these fuckers, the Farallon Islands are volcanic rock. The rock itself is sharp, so if you stand on it, you will bleed into the water. So obviously, sharks circle the fucking thing all the time. Seabirds land on them, they nest there, but also when they're walking around, they get yes, eggs are carnivore. They cut themselves slightly, so there's always drips of blood. Even when seals would try to stop there or escape, and end up on there, that's why they go to San Francisco and they jump up on the rocks there instead of out on the Farallon Islands, because it cuts their belly, puts blood in the water, and then attracts even more sharks. And they used to have gunfights in fucking rowboats over eggs around the Farallon Islands. So this is, is eating vegans a vegan diet? No, it is not, technically. That would not qualify. By the way, don't forget to subscribe. Good reminder, 48.5 thousand subscribers on YouTube right now. We're getting close to 50. We can make it if you subscribe. Welcome along. Hi, just hit it. It's not going to be, don't hit the notification bell. Don't any of that shit. Just help out the stage or whatever. I'll show up in your subscribe list. You can put me in private subscriptions. You can hide your subscriptions if you don't want, if you're ashamed, if I'm your side piece. Information wise, if you're a troll and you let's say you're going to make a really outlandish, stupid argument, as you are wont to do, and you're like, hey, I wonder if anybody will catch how stupid I'm being. I think I should watch Hal Sparks to see if he talks about this particular topic, because if he does, I'm going to look like a dickhead, and if he hasn't covered it yet, I'm safe until he does. So yes. How you know the most interesting facts? Well, I like San Francisco, and I've done a lot of shows there. And there's actually a museum in San Francisco, like a little trolley car museum. It's really random. You can go there and see how the trolley cars started there, or whatever. And you learn the story of Henry Bliss, the first person ever fatally killed in a car accident. He was run over by a car, the first man to be run over by a car and killed. Took him 3 days to die, but he was killed by a car hitting him. In America, his name was Henry Bliss, and he was killed by an electric car. Go check it out. Super fun. So, Ah, yeah, it is never ashamed of me. So Hal's funny when he's serious. It's true. I try. Yeah, the trolley Dodgers. Oh, that's a Brooklyn thing. The Dodgers, which the LA Dodgers originally were the New York Dodgers, and they got their name from the trolley Dodgers because kids would play stickball in the street and they have to get out of the way when the trolley came through, and then they go back and play at stickball. So they were always dodging the trolleys. Anyways, not important. The important thing is that the Faroe Islands egg wars are a fascinating story if you ever want to dive into them, and are why there are so many fucking great white sharks off the coast of San Francisco, specifically. Why they go back there, everybody like, where are these? I got a taste for those Irish fellers. Where is it? They're delicious. They're crispy and crunchy. And I think they marinated in bourbon? What is that? Is it whiskey? Right. So what about kick the can? That's a whole different thing. Goes back to kicking the bucket. Yeah, his name is Bliss. Yes. It is very sad. So the whole egg thing, the point I'm trying to make is, look how much of a stink when egg prices went up. That was caused by H5N1. And the immediate response with everybody was, this is the end times, and if somebody doesn't fix this, everybody's got to go. I know, actually, since Hal is wrong about SVB failure, I'm less willing to trust you now. I'm not wrong. So yes, pickled Irish are spicy. It is true. So it's outrage farming. That's a great way for it. It's like, it's like doom sprayers. It's the same job. Doom spraying and outrage farming. Yep. So, but look how it happened organically, though. That was not difficult. It is work to get the American people outraged over the border. I got news for you. Unless you live in Arizona or Texas in particular, and quite frankly, close to El Paso and the like, you honestly don't think about the border unless you watch it on the news all the fucking time. Even when it's bad, and it ain't comparatively. If it wasn't so hard to get everybody outraged about it, they wouldn't hammer it nonstop. Honest to God, the fact that Republicans talk about, quote unquote, the open border all the fucking time when it ain't, is the reason they have to hammer it, is because every time they stop talking about it for 48 hours, people go back to doing their normal shit and are not outraged. Everybody's concerned about it on a low level, priority-wise, unless it is made a fear point nonstop. It just is. You don't think about the border and you're in Arizona? Yeah. Yeah, unless you live in Vermont or, yeah, the Canucks, please. The Canadians, absolutely. Yeah, but that's why they have to talk about it. If the border if what was going on at the border was as outrageous as they say it is, outrageous, they wouldn't need to discuss it. It would be self-evident to everyone. That's why they hammer it nonstop. They also think it helps them with a certain crowd, and you can gin up the fear of other people. And it's interesting that they use the fear of people who don't get across the border, and fentanyl that gets caught coming across the border as an example of why you should be afraid, because apparently Customs and Border Patrol stopped giving a fuck about America because a Democrat is president. It's so weird. Anyways, they have to hammer it nonstop. Or I got news for you, most of the country will stop giving a fuck. Like, where do you think that phrase, every state is a border state, came from? Like, they are trying to sell this fear point fucking everywhere. Have you seen Derek in Florida yet from Not Even a Show? I have not. I'm not familiar. Cocaine Chihuahua. Yeah. No, the SVB is fallout from crypto. It's not because they backed their shit in crypto. Like, don't oversimplify to try and get hyper specific. It's the same assholes playing with the same money, making the same mistakes, and thinking nobody's paying attention. Same shit. This is FTX fallout. So anyways, and hold on, I got to make sure these connect. I got to check something real quick. Because when Ron Filipkowski is going to join us in about a half an hour, and I want to be able to hear him when he speaks. So I'm going to have to check something.
Today, I'm...
Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Excellent. Fantastic. Let me open up, by the way, our trendages. Hashtag bank collapse. Super fun. Wait, here we go. Trends. Hashtag bank collapse. Now, in the world of finance, you will often find that there is collateral based on collateral based on collateral. And that's why I would argue, and continue to do so, that individual families who got in over their head on a mortgage and lost their job because of 2008 that couldn't make their mortgage isn't the problem. It was the Armando Montalongo crowd of like buying houses with no money down and then use the equity in this house to buy another house and then sell them before the interest rate goes up using a variable interest rate and just stretch yourself so fucking thin. And then if one of them falls, the whole thing falls apart, which is exactly what happened because nobody had to prove their income, which is not about individuals. It's about people who owned 9 fucking derelict houses in a bunch of different areas. So, hashtag bank collapse is trending. This is now happening in real time. No, it isn't. Hold on. Let's see. Extremely important report on this banking stuff. Okay. So again, we're about it. The government puts extreme value on money, so you think as though they're like, what? I hear banks are collapsing. Should I be worried? I have my life savings in Bank of America. Bank collapse, stock market. No. Yeah, see this bullshit? Like, these people are like, and by the way, this is all the money Pepe has in Wells Fargo. Is Pepe? Oh, I see. This is somebody's. All money has been converted to crypto. I don't know what these fucking people are on about. Yeah, you're just watching a bunch of people like this is the crypto crowd. That's what you're watching. This is the hashtag bank collapse is all from the crypto crowd because they actually believe, a lot of the bigger investors in this, that if things go to shit in the financial world in the United States, that crypto will be seen as a safe haven for people's money. I know. And it won't. So HSBC acquires the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank for £1. Yeah, and then they don't allow, yeah, and HSBC does not allow crypto. Yeah, there you go. Now, by the way, this is misleading too. This is super misleading and very important to point out. They bought it for £1, but they accrue the cost of some of the deposits. They buy the controlling arm of it or whatever. Just it's like they buy the corporate piece of paper that exists on that particular UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank, but the accounts that are specific to the UK, they will have to honor. They will have to hang on to, and then they're gonna. It's like when it's like when somebody sells somebody's credit card debt, and a credit company calls you and they're trying to get the money back or whatever. Technically speaking, they're not trying to get the money back so they can give it to Citibank or whoever the fuck or Capital or whatever it is. They're trying to buy it to pay themselves back because they bought your debt for pennies on the dollar. And if they can, if this bank owes you, you owe the bank $10 million, let's just say, and they bought that debt because the bank never expects to get a dime of it back for $5 million, and they get 8 from you, therein lies the profit. You get it? That's it's a giant scale version, but you understand what I'm talking about, right? People understand? Okay. This is a similar thing. As sees an opportunity to buy some cheap assets and make some money with its £1 you think? The structure of the company itself will be worth that. Like, again, if if a construction company builds a shitty building and it falls down and the company goes out of business, but you, for $1, because they're going out of business, can buy all of their tools, their bulldozers, and their drafting computers. Right. You understand? Okay. That's what that is. Yes, bank collapse while a big bank buys another little bank that fell apart. Trump indictment, hashtag Trump indictment. Did he officially get indicted or are we waiting? Yeah, we're still waiting for it. He's toast. I get that. Well, I haven't watched this. Ron posted this. Bless his heart. He has to go through this stuff. Ron Filipkowski is going to be joining us in about 20 minutes. I go through my clips, live with you guys, but to sit in silence without you guys sitting there watching these shows, pulling clips, ugh. They do God's work over at Ron Filipkowski International. Yeah, people complaining about it. And this is, by the way, this is this is the stuff about the Dodd-Frank rules that basically led to where we are.
Great plan, but I want to have your input on the plan in particular, and to do what we have to do in terms of regulation. We have some of the bankers here. There's nobody better to tell me about Dodd-Frank than Jamie, so you're going to tell me about it. But
tell me about it, Jamie Dimon. Tell me about that stuff. Tell me about that guy and tell me about the guy who went to Epstein's island and hung out with him at the same time I did the whole time, if you know what I mean. I obviously brought you here because you've got the goods on me. So you got 3 of Epstein's safes, is it? Is that what you did? Like when he died, was that your plane that landed on Little St. James and picked up a bunch of shit, or was that
we expect to be cutting a lot out of Dodd-Frank because, frankly, I have so many people, friends of mine, that have nice businesses. They can't borrow money. They just can't get any money because the banks just won't let them borrow
because they're crooks like you. Did you guys see the Epstein story where Epstein's brother, which is a little bit like a note from Epstein's mother, I think, or whatever. Epstein's brother said that Jeffrey Epstein told him that he stopped hanging out with Trump because he was a crook. And largely that story about him not letting him come to Mar-a-Lago anymore was not them not hanging out anymore. He just couldn't come to Mar-a-Lago because one of the other actually rich people that goes there brought his teenage daughter, and Epstein hit on her. And Trump's problem was not don't fuck 16-year-old girls. It's just don't do it here. Uh-huh. And yeah, hold on. Let's see. I don't know if you guys brother Trump crook. That should be, I think is what he said. Yeah, here you go. This is what I'm talking about. Jeffrey Epstein said he stopped hanging out with Trump when he realized Trump was a crook, according to his brother. According to, by the way, hold on, I need to click that on in case he pops in. According to his brother, yeah. Apparently, there was a recording in an interview that Steve Bannon made with Jeffrey Epstein, because Steve Bannon was working for Jeffrey Epstein, basically doing a documentary to help him rehab his image after he'd been arrested back then. I mean, come on. Trump's surrounding himself with fucking Steve Bannon and Paul Manafort. Are there any people who wouldn't fuck a kid in that entire group? It's fucking gross. Yes, it's hearsay. Who cares? The interview exists, and you know who could answer whether it's true or not? Steve Bannon, who definitely has footage of Jeffrey Epstein talking. He stopped hanging out with Trump when he realized Trump was a crook. His brother told him Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends for years, and the nature of their fallout remains hazy. That's a great way. Yeah, there you go. Jeffrey Epstein said in an unaired interview that he distanced himself from Trump after realizing Trump was a crook, according to his brother Mark Epstein. Told the Insider he viewed a clip of the interview conducted by Trump's former White House advisor Steve Bannon after his brother forwarded it to him in the spring of 2019. At the time, Bannon was conducting filmed interviews with the now-dead pedophile financier. Bannon sent Jeffrey Epstein a Dropbox link to a clip where he forwarded his brother. The link is no longer active, according to Mark. Jeffrey showed me the link to one of these interviews, and in the interview, Jeffrey said he stopped hanging out with Trump because he realized Trump was a crook. Insider's not been able to independently view the video. Bannon could not be reached for comment. You know, and in all fairness, Bannon hates talking to the press, and when he's got something on them or can tell them that they're full of shit, he hates mentioning it. Just he doesn't like Schadenfreude a lot at all. So yeah. So he was arrested in July 2019. Epstein and Trump were reportedly acquaintances between the 1980s and 2000s. 2 fucking decades. But tell me he had no idea. Just, barf, barf. I mean, it's like these dudes both have the same grin on their face. The same kind of, you know what I mean? Ugh. 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 Jesus. Yeah, so this is, these things pop up, everything. Who cares? First Republic Bank. Now, the Republicans, don't panic, says Joe Biden, caught on tape discussing how to use the media to prevent a bank run today. It's a signature bank. Hold on. Is this?
We have to stay calm and think of.
Hold on.
Like all the money's gone and a collapse is imminent. But we have to stay calm and think of ways to prevent a bank run so we can get ours. Let's ensure that all banks are flocking, talking with each other and sharing information in real time using the back channels we set up in October. And let's use the full force of the media to calm the public and to assure them that their deposits are safe. We may not be able to prevent a collapse, but if we work together, we can limit the fallout for us and preserve the continuity of.
Yeah, that's and anybody who knows my Friday AI shit that we've been talking about, does anybody believe that's actual audio of Joe Biden talking? Good Lord. Don't panic, says Joe Biden, caught on tape discussing how to use the media to prevent a bank run today amidst the total collapse of the world economy. Yeah, and this is O'Keefe Reborn. That's a James O'Keefe Stan account. First Republic shares dropped by 67% on opening before trading halted. Again, these there we go, 84%. Western Alliance Bancorp, First Republic Bank, PacWest Bancorp, Charles Schwab down 20%. That's because they're diversified through this stuff. On Park Avenue, no lines outside, barely one inside, but this is less interesting to tweet. Right. Where's the bank run? Banking stocks plummet. First Republic Bank, Western Alliance Bancorp, PacWest Bancorp, Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab was only 7% before. Okay, so I guess it's gone back up. Let's see. Wealthy neighborhood. People lining up to pull money from First Republic Bank in Brentwood, LA this weekend. Wealthy neighborhood. Many uninsured accounts over 250,000. Bank stocks down 33%. Is this what the start of a banking run looks like? No, it's a bounce panic, sure. Yeah, so again, you're seeing this tipping point from the crypto related stuff, SVB being the direct one, First Republic and others being over leveraged in these areas because of it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shockwave right from that. It is totally true. Yeah, don't care. And again, these are like signature rich people banks. Yeah. Now the question says, hold on. Caught on tape discussing how the media prevented bank. Why is this audio like it's the same tweet. O'Keefe Reborn, same thing. Yeah, there it is. Go, the money's gone, and a flapper collapse is imminent. Like, again, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, again, these are the over leveraged. This is the fallout from crypto. You're gonna find out that a bunch of these people are like, "Oh yeah, we leveraged our bank on the rise of crypto. We never thought it would go down." I go, "Okay, so which is under pressure following the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, says it has shored up its finances with additional funding from the Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan Chase." Yeah, the reasoning behind it is weird. Well, I don't see any in here. Yeah, let's go check, shall we? Let's jump over. We'll grab on the because FVB rather. I keep wanting to say FVB, Future Villain Band, which is the name of Aerosmith in the Bee Gees' Sgt. Pepper's movie where they did come together. That's what they're called, FVB. So yeah, so let's look at. Get in there. I'm already in there, you bastard. I was just like, sign in, you rat. Go back here. Shut up. I'm already in. Plunger. Yeah. Okay. So regional banks, stock traders, trading halts. Here we go. Okay. There you go. Biden says U.S. banking system safe. We'll seek stronger regulation. Traders price Fed year-end rate cuts, peak ECB rate estimates decline. A lot of these banks, too, the regional banks, are the ones that you'll find that leveraged businesses in those areas, kind of like the richest guy in town, the Eric Murdoch crowd, will have their loans leveraged out the ass with the banker that they know. It's like Trump's loans are now from almost one guy in San Diego. Traders price at year-end rate cuts. ECB rate by government bonds across the world rally and rush for havens, right? Because people are moving their bank into there instead of in cash because cash was good for a while. Blah blah blah. Okay, bounces back as bank stocks pair earlier losses, right? Because it was like everybody's like, oh, these idiots are panicking when the morons are running one direction, run the other way, right? Government-backed home loan company Fannie Mae has postponed the sale of more than $500 million of mortgage-linked bonds on the market. Absorbs the collapse of California's Silicon Valley Bank. Right, Bloomberg's Charles Williams, like blah blah blah. The U.S. system of federal home loan banks is ramping up the amount of cash that is available to deploy as the failure of several U.S. lenders stokes expectations that more regional lenders will need to tap it for funds. Quick programming note: again, the reasoning behind the SVB bank as far as why it's having trouble, I've heard a lot of reports about that, and it's because a little time has passed, and it's largely because of mismanagement at the top and people shuffling cash around or pretending cash existed where it didn't. Not surprising at all. Insofar as the other top one, we'll see. U.S. Representative Thomas Massey weighs in. Understanding what's happening at the Fed. If a bank bought a $1 low-interest bond from the Treasury that's now worth 80 cents because of higher Fed rates, Fed will loan that bank money and accept the 20 cents of value that's disappeared as collateral. Yeah, but it hasn't. The dollar is actually up still. All right. More global primary bond sales seized up Monday after Silicon Valley Bank sent a risk gauge surging and sapped any appetite for new deals. Bloomberg, okay, blah, blah, blah. Federal Reserve Chair Powell's strategy to speed up the central bank's inflation fighting efforts is unraveling in the wake of Silicon Valley's collapse. That's agreed. This is also another aspect of this as well. I would say this is probably more of what's going on with the regional banks because they were at a tipping point and they were fine, but SVB and a couple of other, crypto related bullshit themselves aspects has in a dangerous situation. If your boat is already rocky and one particular wave will knock it over, which you might have been able to weather before. In this particular instance, the Fed's weird cartoonish belief that we have monetary inflation as opposed to supply shock in the world and its need to raise interest rates as if the issue is too much money in the economy, which it isn't. is causing a bunch of these banks who lend money into existence. Regional banks, again, lend money for their main purpose. If people stop borrowing money because the lending rate is too high, but the risk factor versus the lending rate is out of balance, then these small regional banks aren't going to be able to make any money because they live off the interest of those loans. And if the money is too expensive for them to lend out, that would be it. That would be a tipping point for those banks. So the Fed will have to incorporate this into it because the stocks are always at war with the banks. Charles Schwab is rebounding from a record intraday decline after the online brokerage sought to reassure investors that it has sufficient liquidity to handle any volatility following Silicon Valley's. Yeah, because they had a bunch of their shit in there. And so people were like, oh, fuck, Schwab's parking their money at SVB. Where the fuck is it coming from? And there you go. Yeah, it's down 9% after going, 23%, pop back up. Because people were like, oh, look, the assholes are selling at a 23% discount. I think I'll buy it and then I'll double my money this afternoon in intraday trading. Do you know how many people salivate over days of panic on the stock market, especially when it's not based on any reality? The mood is fairly calm now in Dublin, another centre for tech startups, says Ian Brown, a managing director at startup hub Dogpatch Labs. Isn't that great? Ireland has Dogpatch Labs. I like it. Still, Brown posted on LinkedIn over the weekend that he needs a fucking job. That VCs may cancel some of their meetings, venture capitalists may cancel some of their meetings, and there could be cash flow difficulties for those affected, including the inability to pay staff and suppliers. Startups at Dogpatch, of which there are more than 250, now have full access to their capital, he said. However, venture capital firms may have a week or two of recalibration before meetings with Irish startups kicks off again. The mood seemed to have lightened today after HSBC bought the lender UK's unit. Yeah, for $1. Again, they bought the deposit worth and where the money was sitting. On a scale that big, even SVB going down, the money that whoever the uppers ran off with or the over leverage from it, can be by a much bigger bank than that. Can facilitate they can basically take that bag of sand and put the gold idol back fairly easily. Put the candle back. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully that explains some of it. It's a lot. By the way, give a thumbs up, like, subscribe to the show if you feel like it. So there you go. Ron Phillips tracking Trump's crazy breakdown on Truth Social Media. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, is watch for, I'll get my, go back to the trends window. It's much easier to look at the chat this way. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to watch. Trump's panic compared to the illusion of calm of those around him is very telling. And he's definitely waking up covered in flop sweat if he's going to sleep at all. And here's the truth of it. I don't think he's as worried about the stuff that he knows they know. I honestly think Trump thinks that he can fight the stuff that they know about him. Whether it's in Georgia and multiple phone calls, by the way, he made to try and manipulate the electorate and win Georgia when he had not, or the fact that Alan Weisselberg is basically taking a bullet for him financially and in terms of prison time by going to jail and blaming him and Mazars, saying, I just signed off on what they told me to sign off on, blah, blah, blah. Even though he provided them and signed off on fake details, that fake balances in accounts and all that kind of shit. And Eric was the facilitator apparently for it because he's the most expendable child. So it's why he and Trump both pled the fifth in New York, and Ivanka and Don Jr. did not, because they're the kids worth saving as far as Trump is concerned. So he didn't fold them into any of this shit. Either that or they're just morons. But Eric definitely knows where those bodies are buried, so he can't say a fucking word. So the two of them, he and Eric, both pled the fifth throughout their depositions, where Ivanka and Don did not. So this is going to be this is going to be pretty fast. The CEO of SVB sold off 3.5 million in stock 2 weeks before the bank failed. Yeah, that's what the Peter Thiel and all those guys started pulling their money out of the bank because the top. By the way, those guys still have their money too, and they're still angel investors for their whatever, they're expecting whatever they were investing in using accounts. Like, I'll put it in a brokerage account and then you'll get paid through that as angel investors or as partners in stuff, just the way Elon Musk buys himself into everything that's smart around him. Same deal. So that money is his, and when he took it out, he can still pay those startups and still, he can move it to another bank and have that bank facilitate those accounts in seconds, and because they already exist. Those he has accounts for that at multiple banks. You would never put all your eggs in one basket at that scale. These are billionaires. So even if he's got $25-30 million in this bank, when he takes that money out, it's not a big deal for him. It's a huge deal for a regional bank. And if several guys do that because they know the people running the bank are full of shit, they're going to yank their stuff out. The bank will become effectively insolvent, won't be able to pay any of its depositors because it's over leveraged, and somebody's going to have to step in. That said, those guys, if they lost money on their deposits because they got out too late, they're fucked. But that's the deal. That's as Paul Manafort would say. That's what our position. That's what our position is. Money's not real. No, it's a representation. It's a representation of labor and goods. I always call it a ham sandwich. If I would pay you with a ham sandwich and that's what you want, you really want a ham sandwich, really bad. But you want it later. I can't pay you today with a ham sandwich and then 2 days later, when you've run out of other ham sandwiches you've made elsewhere, eat that one. So basically, money is a way of putting that ham sandwich in stasis for a time. It represents. Hey, and Ron Filipkowski is joining us. Ron, I'm going to bring you up in just 1 second, my friend. I'll clip a link in. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? I think not. Can you hear me? Ron, can you hear me? Ron Filipkowski, can you hear me? Let's see if he can hear me. He's going to be coming here in a second. I got to program him in here in 1 second. Ron, let's see. My audio is definitely going his direction. This is always a fun thing to do. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. I'm going to message him.
No
you can?
audio.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ron? Check, check, check. Hello. He's standing. He's in our waiting room. We'll bring him on in just 1 second. As soon as Ron can hear me, we will let Ron, can you hear me? Just let the website do its thing. You'll be just fine. I can hear you fine. I'll send him a message letting him know that I can hear you. And can you hear me? There we go. We'll find out in 1 second. Hopefully he sees the chat. The website on this thing is so peculiar. It really, really is. Hopefully he can see that. Ron, do you hear me? Check 1, check 2, check 3. See, this is why you have a producer in the background who does all this stuff and can talk to him, because hold on. Let's see if I'll bring him over and see if he can recognize that I'm talking to him. Ron, do you hear me?
Nothing.
Nope.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Ron can't hear me, so we'll go back to here real quick. Give me 1 second. The source should be in there.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
That's okay. I am sending audio. Boom, 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 boom. So, it's definitely going his direction. My audio is definitely going to him. So, let's see. Check your audio out settings. Let's see. On here. Maybe I'll do this. Hold on 1 second. Maybe I can do it from my end. Wouldn't that be crazy? Hold on. Additional controls. Audio. It's okay. Give me 1 second. We're good. Audio settings. There we go. Default speakers, communications.
Audio source.
There you go. Check, 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 check. One. Can you see me? Can you hear me now? I'm just going to turn on this. Check, 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 check. Can you hear me now? Oh, because there you go. Let's go to default. There we go. Hopefully it's in here. And that's his. I'll find his. Let's see. Yep. Check, check, check. One. Check two. Check three. I'll turn off the okay, hold on. We'll do this. Check, check, check. One. I'm going to turn off his echo cancellation because sometimes that will mess with people. Always fun. Okay, we'll leave that on there. Halt's trading at Charles Schwab. Did they just now? Okay. He's checking his plugs and his plug and his checks. So he'll be with us in just 1 second. Did they halt trading and it went back up to 7? Because again, they had a lot of their accounts there. Phil's on Tom Hartman right now, just counter programming me. Son of a. There we go. Check, check, check. Oh, I saw something there. So it was a little bit of movement. I'm just going to. Hey,
Can
look
you
at
hear me
that.
now?
I can. Oh, we can definitely hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can now. I'm good.
Great. We were hearing you the whole time. It was just audio going back to you that was out. So I was. There's a little. Not at all. That's a little chat issue. We'll fix it or whatever. There we go.
Let me see.
Yep. Now just.
I think I got video now.
Okay.
Sorry, I never used this system here before.
Yeah, it's a curious little thing. I'll bring you in now and we'll pop you up. 1 second. There we go. And give me 1 second. I'm going to take this guy out real quick. And ladies and gentlemen, I now magically, through the power of technology, present Ron Filipkowski, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who takes an ideological and emotional bullet for all of us all day, every day. Follow him on Twitter at Ron Filipkowski. Don't leave the first K out. I'm just saying. Often people, I think, do. Does that ever happen to you? Where they?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. So it's a very important distinction. I mean, these are, you come from a long people that used to flip cows into the sky, and in Polish Armenian, your native tongue, it makes a lot more sense. And
right.
and I just flip that cow into the sky, and that's how I look at it. It's like Sparks used to be Sparrowhawk, but there's also, which is true. I was joking about Filipkowski, but
really?
Yeah, Sparks was Sparrowhawk because the King of England had an Irish hawker, a hawk, trainer who saved his life in battle 3 times and allowed him to have a lordship because, he didn't get killed. And so the Sparks clan ultimately came out of the Sparrowhawk clan like that. But at the same time, when the Vikings rolled through and slept with everyone against their will, there are also Sparkers, which is a word in I want to say Swedish as well, but in the old early northern languages, that means people of a bright spirit. And I'm pretty sure that's my line. I'm think that's the people that I came through. Pretty sure, just cheery bastards who know how to row. Anyways, welcome, Ron. How are you? Lots going on this morning. Obviously, we're in 1929 all over again, and yet we're not. And eggs, just when the price of eggs was coming down. Damn it. So, and then, of course, Trump is melting down. Have you been, do you wake up in the morning and go straight to Truth Social? What's the horror of your morning, Ron? Tell us.
Yeah. You mean the whole gamut? Well, Twitter first, and then I go to Apple News, BBC, Truth Social, Gab, Getter. Am I missing some?
No, but you're definitely winding down. There's definitely a spiral in this drain where you're getting down. Yeah. Start
Instagram,
at the faucet. Yeah.
Drudge, Rumble. Yeah. There's a lot.
Woof. And then you're watching clips of shows and speeches or like whole episodes of stuff. Is that then breakfast, then vomit, then
I have to tell you, the worst was the other Friday night when Roseanne Barr did Alex Jones's show for 2 hours.
Jesus.
I think I'll never be the same after watching that.
I don't doubt it. Honest to God, I like at some point, like there has to be, a limit for everyone. Now, I did a bunch of Roseanne when she was on with that Kirsten W. woman, the one who the anti-vax QAnon who died of COVID. Remember her?
Oh,
She's
yes, yes.
Asian. I think she was Filipino or part Filipino and part Chinese, whatever. Anyways, she was selling, she started her career selling beauty products online, doing kind of like skin cream. And there's a thin line between people who sell skin cream and becoming an anti-vax lunatic and dying of an easily transmissible yet no unnecessarily terminal disease. I don't know why there's a jump. Maybe you can explain it, but so Roseanne, I guess she was there promoting her special that didn't go anywhere. Is that what
she was?
Started
No,
it?
her book. She was complaining that she went on Oprah, and her book only sold 5,000 copies. So she was trying Alex Jones. So Alex promised that he would sell more books, and her book was about Harry Potter and how. I can't imagine why it only sold 5,000 copies. It was to try and help kids realize that Harry Potter is satanic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a tried and true. If I do say so my damn self, that is a tried and true moneymaker. Because I don't know what part of the country you grow up in, Ron?
Cape Cod, originally Massachusetts.
Oh, very fancy. So you're just like dodging sharks in a tiny little boat with your little brother while your dad sat in a folding chair on the beach in a dolly zoom, right? So I grew up in the South, and one of the things, and I don't know if you've ever seen these, there were these little dollar bill size comic books that Christian churches, the Baptist churches especially, used to hand out that warned you about the devil's plans for your life. I mean, obviously there were ones on homosexuality, and the only way people became a homosexual is some dude lured you into a van and he was secretly had a tails and a horn, and then suddenly you're like, this is terrible, and yet somehow I like it. Like that was I think I'll spread this like like a door-to-door salesman. That was the idea. But they also had one, I'll never forget this, about Bewitched. The show Bewitched, they were convinced was a way to soft pedal witchcraft into the psyche of Americans. And by the way, they had Wonder Woman, ISIS. They would go after superheroes too, because Superman was just a surrogate atheist Jew Jesus because his name was Kal-El and the people who created him were Jewish, and that panic was there. But this was a big thing. These people, these like fire and brimstone preachers, toured and made good scratch back in the old days. And part of it was they would sell these for $1 a piece, and they were free to make because they didn't pay any taxes on them, and they owned the printing press, and they had volunteers making it. So they did this shit a lot. So it's not surprising that that's the fallback. It's like Kevin Sorbo doing Christian movies. It's the same stuff. Like they got to go see it. I say Jesus like 15 times. Right?
Yeah. Kevin Sorbo is definitely one of my favorite accounts to follow for dumbed down commentary.
And you watched that whole thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. I couldn't miss that. As soon as I saw Roseanne Barr and Alex Jones, I'm like a moth to the flame. Wild horses couldn't keep me away from that show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a certain element of so terrible it's amazing.
Especially, and then they started drinking, because she asked him for some whiskey, so he actually had some under the table, I guess. So
of course he
pulled it
did.
out.
You don't get that bloated on just dick alpha pills. It has to be hard liquor.
They both started drinking and chain smoking, and it went downhill real fast.
Shocked, I tell you.
I posted a little montage on Twitter of it. It was pretty wild.
Oh, dude. Yes, follow at Ron Filipkowski. I'm about to put your title up. I'm making it while we speak, so I'm double timing it because I was busy trying to fix your audio, at the same time. I'm getting down to the point where I'm spinning fewer plates these days, so I'm only really good at 3 at a time. So now so many times I will say we have seen like over and over, we'll see them hammering a talking point. And I talk about this on my show sometimes, that they know is dead. Like they know there's no there, right? That, and do you ever get those things where you're like, oh, this shit again?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you have a current favorite besides like fentanyl at the border?
Yeah, I
Caught
mean
at the border?
the border obviously is a steady drumbeat, gas prices, inflation.
Mhm.
Um yeah, the
Yeah.
fentanyl one is Afghanistan, Ukraine, of course, a lot of Ukraine.
Right.
Um, everything is everything that comes up with the budget or that the government needs to spend money on, it's always like, well, why are we spending money in Ukraine then? That's the default answer,
Sure.
you
Well,
know.
it's in a lot of ways, if I do say so, my damn self, it is the reasoning is because they don't have a budget, for example. So it's great, it's
Right.
a nonstop. You don't have to explain what you would do. You just have to tell me what you wouldn't do.
Right.
There we go. I got your label up, and we're good. We're rock solid. There you
That's a
go.
lot easier to do when you just criticize. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't put out a budget of their own yet. Right.
Right. And there, by the way, I don't expect them to at any point. Right. They sort of can't, because once they do, then equal
Yeah.
criticism. The CBO is going to have to score it. They're going to have to stand up. They're going to have to explain where the cuts are coming from. And since their gig these days is to play Santa Claus, and make Biden the Grinch, which is what they do with Democrats constantly. Like they're gonna have to cut. They're trying to be Santa Claus while we need to fix real problems. When in reality, they just want to cut these, quote unquote entitlement programs, which you are entitled to. But they never seem to understand that. All right. So there's a lot going on. Like this week is going to be insane, clearly, because the wind up towards Trump's indictments seems to get nearer every day. And it always feels like it is, but there really are steps being taken. Is there anything about his panic attack this morning on the Truth Social that seems particularly more flop sweaty than usual?
Yeah, the
Mhm.
one that he just did about an hour ago was the most. I mean, I've watched every Trump interview, every speech, every
Sure.
press conference, read every post on social media for years, and
Right.
this one was probably the craziest I've ever seen.
Right.
I really think, and you have to notice the timing of his posts. Like the last one at night will be about 2:30 a.m. and then
Hmm.
and then it'll start up again about 6:37 in the morning. So he's getting like 4 hours of sleep right now.
Right. Right.
So he's really
Yeah.
kind of circling the drain.
Well, he's prided himself on that for years, and it's a terrible thing. By the way, when people have that kind of lack of sleep, they make terrible judgments. Even if
Mhm.
I mean, it's never mind the health effects, but you're terrible in your response. You are unmeasured, you are unmoored, you are dizzy in your proclamations and in your understanding of any particular issue, and that shouldn't be any surprise. So I think you posted this one, right? That's the most
I
recent one you
did.
put up. Yeah. So
Probably
let
like an
me
hour ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is, I think, I'll show it to you
Yeah.
because you just saw it or whatever. Yeah, this is, hold on, I've still got Johnny Million's name up on you. I'm sorry, that's from the other day.
But by the way, he put 4 radical up. There's actually 5. He forgot January 6th, I think. But
Oh, right, yes, he'll always, yeah, I mean, give the guy a break. He's going on 4 hours of sleep, Ron. I mean, you've got a withering, brainstem while we're talking. Gacked out, by the way, on, according to several sources, benzos and Adderall, of which, by the way, there is, I don't know, does the talk of the shortage of Adderall that's been going around coincide with some of the more like disjointed and panicked aspects? Maybe that was part of the deal. Anyway, so he's reading these 4 radical left investigations for all your of your all-time favorite president, me. It's just a continuation of the most disgusting witch hunt in history of our country. By the way, can I say for the record, Ron, and I'm sure you've noticed this at one point, these people seem to be pro witch hunt for
yeah.
real. Anyways,
Right.
they think hunting witches, all Roseanne even stuff aside, they're like there's that woman DeLuna who was in Florida who won, and like they were calling her a witch, and she's a
Rod-
Republican, right?
Roger Stone hates her. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, hates
And-
her.
and-
He was
and thinks
trying for
she's
the
a
longest
wicked-
time to prove that she had been a stripper, but I don't think he could ever pin it down. But
Stripper, witch. Is there really? I mean, aren't they just doing sex magic? Isn't the poll just representative of? Haven't you noticed that the chairs are all aligned around a penis-shaped stage, and that the men sitting there are basically like nodding monks who don't say anything all the time, and the women do they like. You don't think this is a sex club, do you? This is witchcraft, Ron. Okay.
well, and then there's the famous Pastor Greg Locke in Tennessee,
right.
who is convinced that the FBI has planted witches amongst his congregation to spy on him.
You mean the ones he's trying to sleep with who keep turning him down, or the ones he sleeps with who are threatening to tell his wife? I always get them mixed up.
Probably.
Right. So no different than Russia hoax, the Ukraine impeachment scam. I'm glad he's differentiating because he uses hoax over and over again. I'm glad he's calling this one a scam now. The spying on my campaign, the no collusion Mueller report, etc. And I love how he puts no collusion in quotes because we all know it doesn't say that.
Now, right. Now those are the old investigations.
Yeah.
Now he's getting to the new ones.
Whether it's the Mar-a-Lago raid, the Unselect Committee hoax, the perfect Georgia phone call, or the Stormy Horseface Daniels, he misspells her name.
Yeah,
That's
he
adorable.
does that on purpose.
Extortion plot. Why does he think it's like denials? I guess maybe, but all right, never mind.
Well, what's interesting about Stormy Daniels is he appears to have a new defense now, because
right.
I think kind of for the longest time he was admitting that he had sex with her and all of that. Right. But now he seems to be, maybe this comes from Melania, some issues that he's having, but now he's denying, I guess, that he ever had sex with her. And he's going to claim, I think, that this whole thing was a plot between Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels to blackmail him. And that the two of them were in on it together. I think that's his latest defense.
Oh, well, and
according to his
he also
lawyer.
does that whole like, I relied on legal advice from very the best people, that kind of stuff. And it's interesting how that follows him all over the place. He basically directs people to crime on his behalf. And then because uses them as lawyers, as accountants, as government employees to do his bidding. And when they do it, he goes, they were doing their job. If I was doing something wrong, they were supposed to tell me and not do it, right? They're the ones who took the oath. They're the officer of the court, right? They're the certified public accountant. I don't have a certified public accountant. I just went to Wharton and I told them what I thought I did, but they were supposed to check. Right? He throws everybody under the fucking bus. And I don't know how you make new friends. I mean, not that he ever really had any, but how you make like a new support structure, at least over time without that, instead of just, is it just winding down? He's running out of people.
Yeah. You just keep getting new ones. Michael Cohen talked about this before, where he talked about how Trump handled Weisselberg and him. He would just tell him, this is what I want to happen in the end. You guys figure out how to get it done.
So that's how
he kind of insulates himself like a mob boss. I'm just telling you the end result. All the illegal shit you have to do to get there, that's up to you to figure out,
Right. Well, and I mean, I always think of like Dennis Farina in Midnight Run talking to his attorney, and his attorney, the attorney's who's like, send a courier, do something, but don't go down there yourself. And he can't help himself because he's just that he thinks he's smarter than the FBI or whoever's after him. And he's like, Sidney, sit the fuck down, have a sandwich, do some goddamn thing or whatever. He just tells his lawyer to shut up all the time and ends up in jail because of it. And that is exactly it. Like in this particular instance, he's just figure a way to rig the game in a way that looks the most legal.
Yep.
And nobody will catch us anyways because the scale, and he's always, I think, under the impression that there's a scale of people that's way bigger than him that are ripping people off. I mean, he believed Obama acted like a king and signed EOs that were completely unconstitutional, and they magically went through and they shoved policy through. So he was like, in his mind, he thinks people get away with shit all the time. They're not even going to look for my piddlywink little stuff. Like, he knows real like multi-billionaires who cheat the system all the time and brag about it all the time. And he's like, this is a couple $100 million. Like, we should be able to get away with this shit, right? And then when it
Right.
comes home to roost, it turns out not to be true at all. He's like, he's astounded, I guess.
Right. He's outraged. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we must discuss, because I think there's moments where you get a respite from some of this stuff, where you get a video that comes up into your feed and you're like, you know what? It's a nice break to be able to see. And the guy, I think, fit that bill and kind of gave you a little bit of a breather was let's see, where's the bud for this this guy? Hold on, let me bring him up. This guy right here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Some
Training
people
for
call
the
him
Civil War. Yeah.
John. Some people call him John Hick. I call him John Wank. Everybody's asking, like, this man is ready for the Civil War as long as everyone stands still, Ron. Because that's, I said earlier, like, I think his last words will be, they won't stand still. I love how he, like, pulls out the knife and then another gun, and he starts stabbing the guy with the gun because he's like, I'm in knife mode. Bang, buh, just so good.
You know what I get a lot, and I got it on this from some replies, is like, this has to be a parody. This has to be like some guy goofing on him. Like, these people are parodies. Like,
yes,
they're natural
self-parody.
Yeah, they're nutty enough. Like, you don't have to parody them.
It's almost, because some of them are so ridiculous. You're like, nobody would bother. Like, it's too much. It's like. This is this reminds me of the Star Wars kid. I don't know if you've ever seen the Star Wars kid, but this guy is somebody's going to make this guy the Star Wars, like the Han Solo kid, where he's just like laser beams coming at, like, pew 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 pew. These guys are all over the place. I love that he's protecting his hearing, though. That's the good part, especially since he's firing right by his head. Yeah,
whatever. I had two yesterday. I don't usually get that much comic relief, but this guy too was pretty sensational.
Right. I don't know if you can hold on. Can you hear this?
I think it's cool to sit back in the safety of their mother's basement, make clips.
Oh, yeah, you can't hear it, but the crowd can. You've heard it before, so.
And talk shit about me out there on the internet.
You
little fuckers have no idea the life I've.
You little fuckers have no idea the life I've led. And I love how he's got his in case I come across some coyote Spalders on, or whatever, his cuffs, his leather cuffs.
He's got his chaps on too, but I kind of cut that part of the video. But
well, yeah, I mean, look, look, he'll have the last laugh in a zombie apocalypse, because it's hard to bite through that part. Now, granted, I know we're all thinking this is actually the tastiest part of the arm, but he's not worried about that right now. He's worried about just getting that part in their mouth and then, I guess, Darryling them with a knife in the forehead.
The funniest replies on that were that he was John Wayne splaining. I like that.
But yeah, and he's not beyond wearing a cowboy cravat either. That is a very fancy necktie he's got.
You know
around
what's
him
funny
right
about things like this too is, like, they always start out with me with all the people on the left laughing at people like this, but then you know what happens after about 12 hours? The right wingers, many of whom follow me as well, pick up these things, and these guys become like heroes to them. They're like, look at this guy, isn't he great? Like, the guy we've just been laughing about for 24 hours becomes like a little folk hero to them.
Right. Oh, they're gonna be invited to CPAC to sign
He'll
fucking
be at CPAC next year.
I'm for it, because that downward spiral is ridiculous. Can you imagine if the Democrats did that, where we picked like the most fringe, like like blue hair, gender is a construct. I refuse to pee sitting down or standing up because it verifies the patriarchy. Like what I mean? Like the deep read stuff that they call up is everybody.
That's whatever.
Yes, exactly. If we invited libs of TikTok people to the DNC to introduce people in the convention or something like that, that's where they are right now.
Right. Yep.
And do you think they're going to introduce Ron DeSantis? I guess that's the big question. Do you think like
I've been having so much fun with this DeSantis Trump thing, which
oh, so
the feud between the two camps is just a lot of fun. One of the things I do on Twitter, because like I said, I have a lot of right wingers that follow me,
sure.
including TV hosts and podcasters and everything, is I like to put, stuff when they're talking shit about each other. I put it out there because I want them all to see it.
Yes.
So, every insult or slight Trump or DeSantis does at each other, I put it out, and make sure that they get it. I did the same thing with the Steve Bannon Elon Musk feud this weekend. I was right in the middle of instigating that. And Steve
you
Bannon
little rat
gave
fucker,
me credit.
you. Yeah, right.
Steve Bannon gave me credit.
Oh man, for letting him know, or what do you mean? Or like,
yeah, for getting it out on Twitter, because he went on his see, what happened there was really weird. He did a podcast with Gates where Bannon was talking shit about Musk, but Bannon talks shit about Musk all the time. That's not that big a newsworthy. But what happened was Gates on Friday night, for whatever reason, posted the clip of him trashing Musk. So I blew that up, hoping to do whatever I could to make sure Musk saw it. So I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Gates or Bannon talking shit?
Gates posted the clip
Bannon?
of Bannon talking shit about Musk.
Yeah.
So then I put it out, hoping to get it out there into the ecosystem so Musk would see it. Right. So then I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Musk had at 4:30 in the morning blasted Bannon, called him an evil, scumbag. Now, everyone who works for Bannon's show follows me. The co-host, the producer, they all follow me.
Yeah.
So I put out what Musk said. So Bannon then on Saturday morning proceeds to spend the first part of his podcast just trashing Musk. So I grabbed the clip of that and put it out on Twitter, and it just got the whole thing going.
It's amazing. Well, and again, they take the bait really easily, but also it's I don't know how they're going to work it out. I don't know, because I don't see the even like the DeSantis Trump camp coming together for real, because I honestly think as bad as it's been amongst Democrats over fucking Hillary, Bernie crowd, blah blah blah, ultimately the vast majority of people put their knives away after that crap. The vast majority of people who are part of the process anyways. Maybe people dropped out entirely and don't vote anymore, but they're not going to actually make an impact. But this is a significant number of Republican voters, both directions, that again, if Trump's Trump's running-ish, but DeSantis gets in there, they start getting closer and closer. It's going to start getting, an even part of it. If he overtakes it, because it's 60-40 people who don't want Trump. So eventually they all fall behind DeSantis because fuck this. If you're not in with Trump, you're not in. You're all out. Like at this point, they start jockeying. Half of Trump's people are going to jump to DeSantis, maybe a third if they're left. Mm-hmm. The other 2/3 are going to attack DeSantis nonstop. Yep. And they are the primary voters and the functional forefront of current Republican politics. They are the biggest, loudest fucking people in the Republican Party. And it will make the Bernie bro hysteria over Hillary stuff look like an argument about baked goods. This is going to be fucked up.
As soon as DeSantis wins his first primary, Trump's going to come unglued. Yep. And the beauty of this is it's not just going to be Trump against DeSantis. It's going to be the Fox News hosts against each other.
Yes.
It's going to be the Newsmax people, the podcasters. I'm already seeing this. The social media influencers. They're all going to start going at each other, and it's already started. So it's going to divide and fracture the entire movement at the grassroots level, on the internet, everything. It's going to be just beautiful. I've always said the only thing that's going to break the spell of the Trump and the Republican Party and all of that is a DeSantis Trump primary. It's going to blow the whole thing to pieces.
Yes.
And then, of course, if DeSantis somehow wins, which I think he could.
Yep.
Well, what is Trump going to do? And what are his people going to do? They're not voting. They will not vote. They will stay home.
That, by the way, that will be their weapon of choice near the end to move
Yep.
the middle zone people who might be favoring DeSantis to their camp. Is that if you vote for him, we're not voting for him, and
Yep.
that's going to be. They're just going to use the suicide pact, effectively political suicide pact
Yep.
on this, and it will be the end of the Republican voting strategy in that time. Because again, it's one thing, he's already talking him out of fucking voting. He's already,
He's done it before.
Yes. And so, yeah, man. So
he told the people in Colorado not to vote for their Senate candidate. And they didn't show up.
Right.
And he got blistered, and he was in the race until the end. So yeah, I mean, DeSantis is going to have to more and more embrace the establishment, because that's the only way he can beat Trump. And the more he does that, the more that's going to piss them off. I just posted, this is an example. Every place I found something that showed that since Roe versus Wade was overturned, Florida has had the third most abortions since that time. So that is useless to me as a Democrat, on social media, but very useful. So what did I do? I gave that to the Trump influencers. And I said, oh, look at this.
Right.
Florida has become the third highest state for abortions.
Right.
Who's the governor of Florida again? And they blew that up. An aunt of one of the January 6th defendants yesterday was complaining that DeSantis never returned any of their phone calls of the January 6th families from Florida, and that he treated them like garbage. Again, my followers don't care about that.
Right.
But I made sure that the Trump people got that clip, and they blew that up last night. So this is what I do. I kind of plant these little wedge things into their camps.
You're not wrong. You're not lying. You're not making up stuff. You're not. No. Again, this is rat fucking with a real rat, I suppose. Or
I'm just feeding them things that I want them to eat.
And that they would that is their diet of choice right now. They are addicted to this in particular. That's the fascinating part. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Ron Filipkowski is here. Follow him on Twitter if you don't already. You probably do. But if you don't, share him. That's a good idea too. So what, outside of this methodology, what's the, do you have a strategy for yourself sort of going into 2024? Because I've started something I call Operation Pineapple, which is where I'm creating a hand grenade of links that someone can send someone that totally flattens an argument, if, at least overwhelms them with the evidence that they are either avoiding or lying about. And so it can be sent through a single source to someone and populate their browser with a bunch of links that will, let them know that how full of shit they are on a myriad of topics. And I'm working on that for this 2024 cycle to be used. I'm sure you got some sort of, skin in the game in that regard as well. Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't really engage them on social media. I just don't want to, because my whole account is sort of geared towards the middle of the road voter, which is what I am. I'm a very much a centrist guy. I was a lifelong Republican who switched parties. So I'm right in the middle. And so what I try to do is speak to those people as much as I can. So that's why I'm always trying to find the extremists and put their stuff out from their conferences and all of that, and then try to link up how the extremists are connected to the elected people, showing how they're doing events together. So again, my whole strategy is, and I think I've done this as well as anyone, is to show how extreme this entire political movement and their candidates are. Whether I focused on Kerry Lake or Herschel Walker or Oz or, whoever, JD Vance, that's pretty much my strategy and what I try and do. So I don't really focus that much on rando people, but I'm hunting people that are running in the primaries right now. A lot of them haven't declared, but that I'm also doing that too, to try and see who
Kerry Lake for VP, Kerry Lake, Trump Lake.
Boebert is a high priority of mine, because I still think we can take out Boebert.
Yes, no question. I also think, by the way, that that MTG is, I think the dew has come off that leaf quite a bit internally in Georgia. And right now, she's got the protection of the Republican Party, especially Kevin McCarthy, because of her fundraising ability, in the same way that they protected certain people in different areas with ads and other stuff more than others. But because she's a congressperson and not a senator, it's harder to justify that kind of expenditure on a small congressional district, in her case, and not benefit other people, because it gets very expensive to convince everybody in an area that's gotten tired of somebody that they know locally. Statewide, it's weird. There's a ROI on that funding that's very malleable. That's why Mitch McConnell, arguably, for a long time.
What
So
I've been trying to
yeah.
do with her and Gates
Mhm.
is try and bait them into running for statewide office,
Yes.
because they won't win, and they think that the problem with both of those two is they think that they are a lot more popular than they are.
Yes.
They both think that 70% of the country agrees with them. And
Mhm.
they're both in like plus 30 Republican districts,
Right.
where it's like
Yes.
70 30, or
Right.
it's like 65 35. And
Right.
so they're just diluted.
Yeah.
And so I keep saying, like, putting in front of them, you guys could never win anything outside your districts. If you tried to
Yep.
run for anything else, you would lose. And of
Right.
course, they push back. But I think that the more and more I pound away at that, like, I might bait one of them into trying to run for something
Oh yeah.
else.
Well, Gates is a legacy politician in Florida. His father was a
His dad.
politician. He's
Yeah.
he's very well connected in that area. I I think the only person stomping the brakes on it would be his dad, because they faced as much scrutiny as they had with just him as a House candidate. That basically they're just gonna have to ride it out until he dodges all these bullets, and then maybe he can run for governor or lieutenant governor at some point.
He
Will be
wants
the
to run for
biggest.
governor. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's not going to make it next time. I mean, he might try for Ron DeSantis, because the Florida law, I think Ron DeSantis would have to step down as governor to run for president officially. Right. So, yeah,
Well, yeah, that's a conversation
officially.
we could see Trump. Here's what's going on.
Yeah.
The Florida statute on that is a little vague. And what it says is, when you qualify to run for federal office, you must resign in Florida. So the whole debate right now is over what does the word qualify mean?
Right.
And the word has always been interpreted in Florida election law as meaning when you have qualified to have your name on a ballot by
Mhm.
paying a filing fee or whatever.
Right.
That is always what the word qualified means. The DeSantis people are arguing that qualify means when you have gotten the nomination of the party. So they're arguing that they don't need to change that statute. But I think what I've tried to do is alert the Trump people to this
Sure.
and say,
Yeah.
this is what they're going to argue. You need to get ready to sue Ron DeSantis as a Florida voter,
Right.
Donald Trump.
Mhm.
So I don't think that DeSantis is going to want to kick off his campaign with a lawsuit from Donald Trump over if he violated Florida law. So I think this is how they're going to do it. Instead of repealing the statute for Ron to be able to run, which looks a little gross, what
Right.
they're going to do is they're going to amend it, and they're going to define the word qualify. They're just going
Right.
to amend the statute and say qualified means when you have secured the nomination of your party for that office.
Right.
That's how they're going to do it.
Well, I don't disagree at all, and I do think the idea of pushing that information, both those camps, strategically makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. I do think it will have more of an impact one direction than the other, in that the DeSantis digs at the Trump crowd work better than the other way around, because DeSantis is dealing with the reality of the Trump voter, whereas the Trump voter is dealing with the mythology of Trump and the reality of DeSantis. So they're in a real bind as far as, nationwide. Trump is fucked. Like, there's enough Republicans that aren't going to vote, and enough other for him. So if they're not going to vote for the Republican president at all, they won't vote at all, which will eat into everybody else's votes. Some that will just shave off president and vote for everybody down ticket, which happened a lot in the last election because people could do it from home. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of Republicans stayed in office and he didn't. And that fucks up the whole Mike Pillow crowd's metrics about how they bounced the votes off the satellite and when they went to Belgium or whatever the fuck. But the DeSantis crowd is there's kind of this muted, oh dear, at some point we're going to have to deal with this fact. And there's no way around this that isn't just fucked. It's going to get ugly whenever Trump's people decide it will. It's already gross. But at some point, it's going to get like so nasty.
Well, wait till they do events where the Trump people show up at the DeSantis events and start heckling him, and that's already started. Laura Loomer did that a little bit at his book signing.
Right.
Again, I put that out. But here's another thing to keep an eye on, and this is important because they're starting to talk about this now, and Trump is too, about ballot harvesting, because Trump has convinced all of these people that the only way that the Democrats are winning right now in 20 and 22 is by cheating.
Yes.
And cheating with with ballot harvesting. And so what they told their people in 2022 was everybody just wait and vote same day, vote election day, and that didn't work. So now they've become convinced that, well, the Democrats have been cheating, so we have to cheat too.
Yes.
And we're going to cheat even better than them. And so then I believe that they're going to try and cheat like crazy. And then as soon as Democrats start calling them out, they're going to say, oh, you're election deniers, you're conspiracy theorists. You see what I mean?
Yep. Oh, I agree. I here's the problem though. They're going to do it in the primary because they're too fucking stupid to wait until the general.
Oh,
because
you may be right there.
Because they think DeSantis is going to rig it with the rhino establishment uniparty deep state. So they're convinced that, listen to them talk. They think the rhinos and the Dems are the same fucking people and adrenochrome drinking psychopath cabal people or whatever. So those folks, and they're going to, you think the group in the villages that was like triple voting is going to be, was a standout. There was enough people. That was the volume of fraud in the election. The biggest volume of direct fraud discovered was people in the villages, in particular, voting 3 times. And there are going to be a bunch of people where the Republican governor and the state house, especially the state houses, because they're the full of shit people who are still grinding their teeth over Jan 6. They're going to have poll watching police officers at a bunch of these places to stop Antifa from stuffing ballots or people voting twice. And they're going to have to arrest a couple of people that tried to vote twice, and they're going to be Republicans. Because they're going to go, we already received your vote. And they're going to go, that's weird. Do you want to file a police report? There's a police officer right here. No, that's okay. All right, why not?
I think it's going to be much worse than that. I think they're going to show up with truckloads of ballots, and knapsacks of ballots to drop off.
Right.
Because they're convinced that that's what Democrats have been doing.
Yeah, but it's going to be so ham-handed. It's not going to have the right QR code or UPC code on it. It's going to be obvious fakery. There's going to, it's going to be like really ham-handed. So the separation of the stuff. Yeah, the separation of it stuff. It's like they'll get Chinese paper. They'll buy bulk Chinese cardstock from a company on purpose, because that's how they get it through there, is that Chinese cardstock, that they use for, that's, it's got the panda jizz and the fucking, bamboo threads in it. And that's how they use their paper. So we'll get the same stuff. And that will be the standout thing when they try some of these assholes after the primary. Again, these people will face trial like in October. The October surprise in 2024, ironically, could be a mass attempt at primary voter fraud by Trump voters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who believe that DeSantis is coordinating with the Dems to get him kicked out in states, especially like you said, after DeSantis wins one primary.
Yeah,
the rest of they're going to go.
Nobody in the media has picked up on this, but the Republicans have started saying this the last few weeks, that look, we got beat by ballot harvesting and cheating, and we have to do it better than they do. Charlie Kirk has said that. Donald Trump has said it. Steve Bannon has said it. It's that's the plan.
And like I said, they're not going to be able to hold their fire. They're so ate up with this whole rhino thing that they're going to believe if DeSantis clears when DeSantis clears 33-35%. Where he's eking up into where, it's not a huge leap for him to get 42%, which is about where Trump is in reality with a lot of these people, give or take. That's going to scare the shit out of them. And that's when all this stuff is going to boil up, and they're going to go, Trump's people are going to have to go, we have to fix the primary. Otherwise, this motherfucker's going to steal
Right.
it from us. Right. And,
But those polls don't show state by state. Where DeSantis is polling really well against Trump is out west, is California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, and the Midwest. He's doing very well. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio. And so Trump is strong in the South. I think that there's an electoral sort of way that DeSantis could pull this off.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it either, and I think there'll be the inevitability wave will just go with follow the leader, the lemming the leader thing that goes on in modern Trumpian politics, and I believe that Trump is going to phase out of it at a certain point for health reasons or something else. He'll find an excuse to ditch out at the last second because he won't
he'll
take
be under
the L.
indictment.
Right.
But can you envision, because this is hard for me to envision. I mean, I struggle to do this knowing Trump as I do, can you envision a scenario where he will bow out and tell people we all have to get behind Ron DeSantis now?
Oh no, that'll never happen. He's not going to tell him to get behind him. No. No. He'll bow out while his ego won't allow him to tell people why, which is that he's physically incapable, financially incapable, or he knows he doesn't have the numbers and he doesn't want to fight those numbers because he'll have to take that L and he refuses to do it. So he'll just make up a reason that martyr himself. He will martyr. So I don't need this shit anymore. And the Republican Party is rigging this whole thing and fuck them. I'm going to lead this party from the sidelines. I'm going to be the godfather of real MAGA and America First. And we're going to start a 20-year plan to reclaim this for conservative values and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be the ring, kiss my ring to become a Republican. And he's kind of arguably, how some people run to sell a book. He's arguably doing that now. He's arguably running to be the Republican godfather more than for president. He maybe thinks it might save him from indictment. He kind of knows it won't. So, it'll be too fucking late. But part of it is nobody gets there except through me. I'm the Jesus of Republican salvation. That's where the money is, by the way, more than anything else. He could give a fuck about the Oval Office. He hated that gig. He was miserable the whole fucking time. But you got to make a good show for people to, to come kiss the ring. You got to be the guy like, oh, well, if he signs off on you, you're in. That's why he touts his record and all that shit.
I think what he loved about the job was he loved being president, and he loved being saluted and hanging in the Oval Office and walk the trappings of power. He just didn't want to do any of the actual work.
Right. But unfortunately, you can't avoid it. That's why all the presidents get fucking old during their time in office. Like why they age terribly is because now granted, as a borderline narcissistic sociopath, I'm sure some of the feelings, like even Reagan, some of the feelings that the rest of us would feel when we got a terrible report about dead soldiers or explosions or whatever affect him slightly less than it would other people, right? You can tell how much it ages a president often has to do with how much they give a shit. And the ones that look the same going in as they went out, like Reagan or Trump or George W. Bush, it was only a matter of years. You can tell they kind of, I don't know, fuck, that happens, right? That's not, I read that on the news when I'm not president. I'm reading it right here now. Who gives a shit? And that's,
No, you're right, because Clinton and Obama aged a lot.
Oh my God. You can tell the decisions on them because there are no good,
and Biden is, this is taking a heavy, that's why, I'm not really thrilled about Biden running again, because I just see he's a lot of people on the left don't see it because they don't see all the gaffes and all the mistakes because it's hidden from them, to be quite honest, by people on the left on social media. I, on the other hand, who cover the right wing, see every mistake that Biden makes, every gaffe, every fault. And so I get a steady diet of them. And I can tell you there's a lot more this year than there was last year. And there's a lot more last year than the year before because he's 80 years old. Right. He's going to be 82 in 24. So I have grave concerns about, I guess he's going to be our nominee, but
Well, I
I
think here's
kind of wish
here
it was
yeah,
somebody
my
else.
my feelings about
You know?
his gaffes and stuff as far as yes, it's age related. I worry more about his walking because he refuses to stop doing the Peloton shit. So he's always got a sore back and sore legs. So he walks like he's 150
That is
because
right.
he's staying fitter than usual. It's very ironic. It's a
But they
weird thing
show
about him.
every trip, every
Yep.
e I mean, I
Every
see a
stumble.
city they have a team of people that do nothing but track Biden everywhere he goes, every
Yep.
second of the day, every minute,
Right, right.
and they post every mistake. The Democrats don't do that to Trump. I mean, I
Right.
guess
I
I'm the
do.
closest one.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a few of us do, but they don't have like an organized, paid team of people doing this
Right.
like the Republicans do. And they're relentless. And the stuff that they find is very damaging stuff. And that's my concern is that so many Democrats have never seen any of it, that they're
Mhm.
just not aware of the mistakes that he makes on a daily basis. And
Sure.
so I'm very
Yeah.
concerned, especially if
Agreed.
it's like a Biden DeSantis matchup where you have a 46-year-old guy who,
Mhm.
yes, is a social misfit, but still,
Mhm.
vigorous, energetic, all of that against an 82-year-old. You know, we might need Trump's help to take out DeSantis.
Well,
You know,
we're gonna get it. I would also say that like Biden's like his fortifying abilities are not orator, even though we are in a very branding oriented life right now. His value has been that he's been around long enough that he doesn't believe the bullshit when it comes his way. And specifically, Afghanistan is one of the big examples of that. Is that he was told the same thing that he told Obama. This is in both of their books, and Obama has talked about it, that the generals are going to come to you and they're going to tell you this shit that we only need 6 more months, 8 more months, 13 more months, whatever it is. And it's never going to fucking stop. It's after that, it's going to be another 6, 8 months, another 13 months. And when he got into office, his response was, fuck you. We got an out. We're going. No. And because they all told him the same thing, Millie, everybody, they've been talking about it. We need another 9 months and we could totally smooth out of this. And it would be like, he's like, nope, pack your shit. And it was ugly, but it was always going to be ugly. That's why everybody didn't mind punting it, for example. But it's a good example of one of these, like, look, I've seen these motherfuckers say the same story so many fucking times, and it never changes because of this. And ironically, his from a policy standpoint, Biden has a very, I would argue, a young attitude towards the change of it. That when is this entrenched bullshit going to finally be fixed? Because instead of people who've read about it or become outraged during a college course or a summer of protesting or what have you, he sat through all the fucking Senate meetings about it. He's seen the same 9 assholes come dozens of times in front of him tell the same fucking story, and it didn't pay out. So that's where his value is, and I think he still has that in that regard.
yeah.
And I do also think that one of his gifts, and that he really has, is that besides he's got a lifelong stutter, and that's been part of his life, that he's discussed openly, many, many times. He was also the gaff guy who just said what you weren't supposed to say yet, whether it was about gay marriage, whether it was about protecting Taiwan, whether it was big fucking deal. He's got a history of that part of it. In comparison to Trump, who always claims he has the best word, so every fuck up is on the record. Every fuck up is earned and backed up with ego. So that if you say you have the best words, you fuck up, all bets are off. And that's where I think you're right. We need a team of people who hammer that shit nonstop. Just like, and I try to do it like, that's why I do his little short videos he's been putting up, which I believe are faux campaign videos so that he doesn't get busted.
Those are the craziest ones.
Oh my
I
God.
think Stephen Miller is the one who helps him with a lot of those.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Stephen Miller's
his
writing most of them, I
fingerprints
think.
are all over them.
Exactly.
And the shit that he has said in those things. And yes, the media, this is a little bit frustrating to me. Like the media feels somewhat responsible for 2016 because they gave him so much run,
Yeah.
right? And I agree with that.
They are.
However,
right.
they're now overcompensating where they think like, well, now we'll just ignore him completely. And I don't think that that's very smart either, because take, for example, the video he put out where he wants parents of every school, every elementary school, middle school, every single year to vote on the principal for the next year, who the principal is
Yes.
going to be.
Oh
He
my God.
actually said that.
Yes.
And it's
And
like, that is the most insane idea anyone has ever come up with. And parents, even Republican parents, will go, we're not fucking doing that. You
yeah, can
know?
you? And they want the principle for kicking that person out and having an election about a new one to be basically the same standard that Matt Gaetz wanted for the fucking Speaker of the House, where it's just like two parents can walk in and go, "You're
Yeah.
fired," and then they go,
Yeah.
"We have to have a vote because these people don't agree 100%." They like the standard isn't like a 60% of parents have to sign a petition to get rid of them. Like, it's drop of the fucking, it's
But
just a recipe for
means
fucking chaos.
that also means a construction worker can run for the local high school principal, to be in charge of the school. I mean,
You're
this is
right.
what Trump is proposing. I mean, and that's
Yes.
just one example. I mean, never mind his building 10 new cities called
Right.
Freedom
With the
Cities.
flying cars, the freedom
You know?
cities. So
I
good.
mean, this stuff that he's throwing out there is just crazy. And I think like the media ignoring it is kind of like doing him some favors here. I don't know, but
I agree. I think they should point out when, because they will cover sometimes when, when they do cover Biden's gaffes. I do feel like if you're going to do that, you at least, you want to both sider it, like you always did, when they on CNN was a painfully both sidering everything. Then you got to go to one of his videos where Trump says one of his lunatic things, or one of these little speeches he gives to this dwindling crowds that he has that make no fucking sense at all. Like, play a sentence where he thinks he's saying something where nothing is said. You've seen dozens of those. I know you have, where he just says like buzzwords and slogan kind of words, but in a long stretch where he's like trying to find his way back to the teleprompter or back to his fucking point, and he goes like 9 deep, and you're like, where is this guy going? And I'll put any of that shit up against Biden, by the way, looking at somebody off stage and going, "Hey buddy," like that, and them going, it's a video of him shaking hands with nobody. Like, shut the fuck up. Even Glenn Beck had to walk that one back. Joe Rogan still says it. Joe Rogan still quotes that moment as actually happening. But so we only got a couple. We're right at the tail end of this. Everybody follow Ron Filipkowski on Twitter as well. And you have you're ronfilipkowski.com as well for the non-Twitterites. Do you have a Facebook page as well that we should know about, and Mastodon, or are you on Spoutable yet?
I'm on those other places, but under anonymous accounts that I just use to troll.
You ghost bastard.
Nobody wants to follow them.
I agree. But you are on Telegram under a QAnon account, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on, like, I can't tell you my secret MAGA names that I use.
Yeah. So
MAGA patriot stuff like that,
So what? And I guess we'll end on this. But you're obviously concerned about whether or not Elon Musk can keep this fucking place afloat. And because your business model is kind of entrenched in there. And I'm sure you know that Meta has announced that they are going to have a Twitter killer that they're going to release soon that is supposed to be, a competition.
I did not see that. No.
Yes, that's happening.
Look,
what do you do?
I think that all of us are a little concerned who regularly also attack Musk, like I do. And I've had many people say to me, you need to be careful. You go after Musk a lot. He could just delete your account at any time. And so, something like that is. And then I go, well, no, everybody on Twitter will come to my aid and defend me. But then I think, well, wait a minute, 5 reporters, like CNN, Washington Post reporters, were suspended, and the press didn't do shit. The media organizations didn't do anything to stand up for their own people. So no, I'll pretty much be screwed.
Right. That's what I'm just telling you. It's like Q and James Bond always says, never let them see you bleed, and always have a backup plan.
Right. People are just saying, stop picking on Musk.
You don't have to do that. But I would say right now, because like Spoutable's just starting or whatever, and there are these other things, is that I would start a pro page on Facebook if I were you, like one of those, and just buffer it. Just have somebody set up a if this then that, set up for it. So anything you tweet, also becomes a status update on that Facebook page as a backup, and then embed that on your website so that it just constantly runs as a thread in case he does try to throw the switch, right? And that's because I care and I think your message is going to be important. And I do think if they're going to rat fuck back, which I believe they are going to do, they're going to wait until it's crucial, right up to the primary, right up a giant news story, whether it's, during the October surprise. Those kind of times are the times when accounts like yours could really be on the chopping block. And
Yeah.
that worries me. So, if you need any help in any of those areas, I'm glad to nerd for you. But
Yeah,
I
I
I
will.
think it's crucial. Yeah. In the meantime, everybody follow Ron Filipkowski. I'll let him be, and then I'm going to go cook some brunch for my kid. So thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it. We'll do this again. I think as we get closer to the primary, I think we should both be able. I know we're both going to be able to go. Told you, told you, told you, told you for like 2 months straight. So I look
Right.
forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds
hmm
good.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for being on.
Thanks
All
for the
right.
invite. See ya.
Absolutely. Cheers. See you again. And thanks guys for hanging out. I mean, I gotta say, I think we gotta set up a backup plan for Ron. We're gonna make it happen at some point. Wednesday for the morning show, Philip Ittner will be with us. I will be, of course, exhausted because I'm doing the jam tomorrow night. I will have a show this afternoon. No show tomorrow though, because I have sound check right in that window because it's a jam night. But then the rest of the week, the show should go relatively normal. So there you go. We'll be off and running. It'll be fantastic. Let's see. Bring back. Don't forget, he wants to bring back firing ranges and kill all drug dealers. Oh yes, he also wants 12-year-olds to be charged as adult, and admits that oftentimes cartels use 12-year-olds to deal drugs. So get ready for 400 plus preteens on death row. Thanks, Donald Trump. I don't even know why people didn't or whatever, because they're fucking insane. Anyways, love you guys. Thanks for the support today. Don't forget patreon.com/HalSparks. That's one of the best ways to help us like preload this show and start getting guests in here on the regular. Hold on, why is I got a slice happening out of my green screen? Fixed that. So just anything you guys can do to help. If you can't do anything to help, just enjoy the show and use the information, and hopefully it will make your day brighter and a little more fun and educate you on a couple of things. And I want to we had a couple of trolls today, so I want to thank you guys for helping us in the algorithm in a way that no one else can. You're the gift that keeps on giving. And so am I. That's why I'll be back this afternoon. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else.